Thank you very much for inviting me to this. It's the chance for me, Mr. Nicholas, Director of ISDP. It is first time for me to appear before camera, but I don't be afraid of it. So then I would like to mention and convey the exact viewpoint and position of my country on the UN sanctions and also then root cause of escalating tension on the Korean Peninsula. And also then availing myself of this opportunity to express my thanks to all of you to attend this then significant gatherings. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So now then I would like to explain the double standard of UN's UN resolution on sanctions against my country. This is producing the change on the Korean Peninsula. So I can explain without seeing the paper, but I want to convey exact the position of my country. So I read out slowly and exactly according to the paper. So the United States and its followers continue to manipulate the resolution on sanctions against DPRK at the UN Security Council, abusing the self-defensive measures of strengthening national defense power of DPRK as a threat to world peace and security. The right of self-defense and self-determination cannot be violated by anyone as their sacred right, officially recognized by the international law, including UN Charter. The sanction resolution of the United Nations against DPRK are a document devoid of legality, morality, impartiality from beginning. The UN Security Council started its path taking side with United States hostile policy towards DPRK by fabricating its Resolution 82, Resolution 83, Resolution 84 that legalize the aggression of United States against DPRK and the participation of UN therein. Last year, also, the UN Security Council, under the instigation of United States, again committed the act of derogation and the violation of our sovereign right to manipulating the sanctions resolution 2270 and 2321, while revealing our hydrogen bomb test and explosion test of nuclear warheads to safeguard our sovereignty as a threat to international peace and security. In this regard, the permanent representative of DPRK to UN sent letters twice to UN Secretary General in May and December 2016, requiring him to explain the legal ground that UN Security Council stipulated our nuclear test and the satellite and the ballistic missile launch as a threat to international peace and security. The article, in response, the UN Under Secretary General for Political Affairs sent us a reply letter on December 22, 2016, stating that legal ground of the sanction resolution of UN Security Council against DPRK is the Article 39 of UN Charter. Article 39 of UN Charter, quoted by the UN Secretariat as a legal ground of sanction resolution against DPRK, is the provision on the general authority of UN Security Council. The content of the stipulates that UN Security Council determined the existence of any threat to peace and breach of peace or act of aggression, and makes recommendation to maintain or restore international peace and security. If the interpretation of UN Secretariat is followed, it means that the UN Security Council can decide not by norms of any international law, but by its own discretion, whether nuclear test or satellite and then is the ballistic missile launch constitute a threat to international peace and security and pass sanction resolutions. Then one cannot but ask why UN Security Council judged that only nuclear tests and satellite and ballistic missile launches of DPRK posed a threat to international peace and security, and adopted sanction resolution while many countries conduct nuclear tests and satellite and ballistic missile launches. UN Security Council is not a legislative organ creating new laws, neither has it authority to do so. Not a single provision of any international law, including UN Charter, UN General Assembly resolutions, CTBT, NPT, Outer Space Treaty, stipulates that nuclear tests or satellites and ballistic missile launches themselves constitute a threat to international peace and security. UN Security Council should not allow discrimination in the interpretation of the Article 39 of UN Charter and adopt resolution applied selectively to the particular country. In the past, however, the UN Security Council did not apply equally to all those resolutions adopted on the basis of Article 39 of the UN Charter. It selectively applied them to particular country under the particular situation. Consequently, these resolutions are not obligatory. If nuclear tests or satellite and ballistic missile launches themselves constitute a threat to international peace and security, the permanent member states of UN Security Council should become the target of sanctions one after another, and the corresponding sanctions resolution adopted as they conducted nuclear tests more than 2,000 times and launched over 7,000 satellites and still undertake international ballistic missile launch tests almost every day. But the UN Security Council manipulated the sanctions resolution without any legal ground, alleging that only the nuclear tests and the satellites and the ballistic missile launches of DPRK constituted a threat to international peace and security. In the meantime, the United States put political and economic pressure on other countries to take side with hostile policy towards DPRK to implement the anti-DPRK sanctions resolutions. the root cause of nuclear issue on the Korean Peninsula lies in the United States, and it is none other than United States that pushes the DPRK become nuclear weapon state. Our nuclear test and ballistic missile launches are just and righteous self-defense measures to safeguard sovereignty and the right to existence to cope with nuclear threat of United States, persisting for more than half a century, and they do not run counter to any international law, including Article 51. It is the right to self-defense of UN Charter. Forum for International Legal Experts to clarify legal ground of UN sanctions resolution against DPRK should be organized immediately. This is our proposal. The unusual phenomenon in which justice and the truth are trampled down and the right of sovereign state violated in the international arena, including United Nations, should no longer be connived or tolerated. UN sanction resolution against DPRK are not issues confined to DPRK alone. As the UN history spanning more than 70 years shows, if the DPRK become the target of UN sanction today, another state will become their target tomorrow. In order to put an end to the illegal and inhuman evil conduct continuing like traditional practice in the UN Security Council, the permanent mission of DPRK to UN made proposal in January 2017 to the UN Secretariat on holding Forum of International Legal Experts in either New York or Geneva to clarify the legal ground of sanctions resolutions. The prevailing reality fully shows that organizing Forum of International Legal Experts to investigate the legal ground of sanctions resolution is all the more pressing. Forum for International Legal Experts is the place where legality of sanction resolution can be clarified fairly from international law perspective. On March 13, 2017, the permanent mission of the DPRK to UN proposed to UN Secretariat that governmental and non-governmental experts from all states and the international legal organizations attend the forum as they wish, and the agenda of forum be agreed upon reasonably in full reflection of issues and the opinions of attendants. UN Secretariat should, in accordance with main mission of maintaining international peace and security, fulfill its responsibility before the international community by positively responding to our proposal on organizing Forum of International Legal Experts to clarify the legal ground of sanctions resolution against the DPRK. This is the official viewpoint of the sanctions, or UN sanctions against my country. So this sanction, such a double standard that leads the situation on the Korean Peninsula to the extreme, and even then lead the situation to the clash between nuclear weapons. So if you have any questions during the forum, you please raise question there, I'll answer them.
So I understand as a person with a legal background, I can see the interest, of course, of having such a seminar, but I'm also very much interested in the main reasons behind the current situation, the current escalating situation, and more positively, what can we do to de-escalate tension, and trying to have that positive spin on everything. And secondly, which I think is a huge thing, is of course the missile and nuclear test. What would it take to remove that issue, if it's possible at all? And I think that these two questions becomes very central for the current situation. So, sir.
Okay, I'd like to answer. The root cause of escalating tension on the Korean Peninsula. You mean that first questions. The U.S. nuclear threat to DPRK and the blackmail, joint military exercise, sanctions, and other moves to stifle the DPRK are the root cause of escalating tensions on the Korean Peninsula and push the situation to the brink of clash of nuclear weapons. The prevailing grave situation on the Korean Peninsula is entirely attributable to U.S. anti-DPRK policy and the nuclear threat to DPRK. This one is the first one. Then I'd like to add more in this regard. So actually, then is the nuclear issue. This Korean issues, many people, the nuclear issue. Everybody told like this. Then is the nuclear issue on the Korean Peninsula originated from U.S. nuclear threat to DPRK. United States deployed nuclear weapons in South Korea and its vicinity after Korean War 1953. From that time, United States officially listed my country as its nuclear target and threatened my country by those nuclear weapons, resulting to serious political economic pressure on us. At the same time, United States made practical preparations to attack DPRK by those nuclear weapons in different ways. One of the vivid evidence is U.S. South Korea joint military exercises. Army of any country stages military drills, but they vary in their nature in the light of their purpose, scenario, operation mode, and equipment. We have never taken serious note of U.S. military drills staged in its mainland or Pacific and other places do not pose any threat to DPRK. But U.S. South Korea joint military exercises are different from ordinary ones. Especially, they are posing serious danger as it is a large-scale war games for operations staged by the U.S., world's biggest nuclear power, in the areas which is very close to DPRK. Last year, NATO's exercise codenamed Anaconda took place last July, I think. It was attended 21,000 troops with a certain numbers of military hardwares, including warships. But U.S. South Korea joint military exercises are participated in by at least 300,000 troops, with big numbers of U.S. ultra-modern military hardware, including strategic nuclear bombers, nuclear carrier striking group, which are enough to carry out a war. They are focusing on command operation and landing operations aimed at making surprise attack on DPRK, and even aimed at occupying Pyongyang, the capital of DPRK. During the period of exercise now taking in practice now underway, U.S. is crying out for examining feasibility of beheading operations. It means that for elimination the headquarters of DPRK, we are the sovereign state, but they are aimed at eliminating headquarters of sovereign state. It is true, it is shows and purpose and the target set by the United States clearly show they are going to physically eliminate the state and social system of DPRK after throwing away its so-called signboard as defensive and annual one at the time when the opportunity presented itself. As I mentioned, US nuclear threat and anti-DPRK policy have already gone beyond the limit of tolerance. Under such circumstances, there is no alternative but for DPRK to develop nuclear weapons for self-defense. But now, UN Security Council, just before I mentioned, turned away from that reality. They are making then is the unreasonable then is resolutions, sanction resolutions, then is against my country. Then is I'd like to mention here. History shows that if one makes a step back in face of anyone's threat, it has to make 2 steps back, compelling itself to make 10 steps back. In other words, no matter how fair and just one may be, one is bound to fall victims to big powers if one is weak. So, but US these days is trying hard to then is shift to the responsibility for prevent grave situation on the Korean Peninsula onto DPRK. They are trying to mislead public opinion that nuclear weapons of DPRK are a threat to peace on the Korean Peninsula and other parts of the world. And then no problem will be settled unless denuclearization of North be achieved first. This is unfair. US DPRK has been forced by the United States to develop nuclear weapons for self-defense to cope with the danger of US attack and aggression. These days, US openly hinted to make military strike on DPRK even. Under such circumstances, we have no alternative but take measures for self-defense. So, in this case, then some document has already clarified our stand. Then intercontinental ballistic missile will be launched anytime, any place determined by the Supreme Headquarters of my country to cope with such a threat. In this case, you are insisting that UN Security Council have to take impartiality. I mean that UN is the international organization. International efforts for solution of any problem should be consistent with the non-selectivity, impartiality, objectivity on the basis of equal sovereignty, mutual respect, and peaceful coexistence as stipulated in the principal purpose of the Charter. But UN Security Council in this regard has long been disqualified to take issue with our nuclear tests and missile launches as it has gone to the extreme in its application of double standard by which they labeled our tests illegal but keep silent on the tests conducted in other countries. It is clearly double standard. So, in this regard, just before I mentioned, UN sanction resolution against my country, you are completely reject such a resolutions. This is my answers. So second one,
sure.
Second one you mentioned, then is there prepared to answer before I come here. I then imagine different kinds of questions. So this one was one of the prepared ones. The way to prevent the situation on the Korean Peninsula from bad to worse, that is very now pressing questions. Only way de-escalating tension on the Korean Peninsula is to roll back US anti-DPRK policy and root out nuclear threat to DPRK, including halt to US South Korea military exercise. This is my answer.
But so, if I can the joint exercises, of course, is then seen as a major threat, and what DPRK perceives as the aggressive American position. Would that also mean if the joint military exercises ends, if that aggression disappears, is that the reason for DPRK to denuclearize, or is this already too late? What would you?
Okay, this is one of the questions. This one is the made preparation to answer. Please allow me to find it.
You're well prepared.
Yeah, not well prepared, but then I made some preparations. Okay, this one very simple. Then the U.S. and the South Korea joint military drills being staged at our doorstep is the most extreme hostility to DPRK. U.S. This one is one of the U.S. hostile actions against my country. Most important one, the U.S. bold policy switch over of stopping hostile policy towards DPRK, such as joint military exercise against DPRK. This is the joint military exercise. One of the conditions for us. Roll back, as I mentioned, roll back U.S. anti-DPRK policy and the route out to nuclear threat to DPRK.
I'm trying to desperately find something positive, moving away from all this tactical and nuclear weapons. We have a South Korean election coming up, which tend to be very predictable. I, of course, actually most of the opposition parties which seems to win, Moon or Ang, which is the two favorites at the moment. The South Korean elections is very unpredictable as well. How do you view that? How do DPRK view the South Korean election, and how do you view the potential for re-engagement and a more peaceful communication rather than this very sort of aggressive rhetoric we can hear today? And of course, this is one of ISDP's main points. We're trying to facilitate dialogue and constructive engagement rather than heavy-handed.
Yeah, this one is very simple, and I prepared. Otherwise, I read it out to you. All Koreans in the North and South and abroad unite and activate their efforts for reconciliation and cooperation on the basis of subordinating everything to the end of a reunification without regard to idea, social system, area, class. The U.S. do not instigate South Korean authorities to confrontation with homogeneous nation. It means that DPRK. Normalization of North-South relations is the demand of the time, and neglecting the demand of the time, present South Korean authorities seek confrontation with North. They will also. It means that expected South Korean authorities seek the confrontation with North. They also meet same fate of Park Geun-hye, president. This is the answer.
But so you have no favorite in the South Korean election?
This is not my area. It's outside.
Well, thank you, Ambassador. You're going to have a few more discussions with a couple of our media friends here.
Yes.
So I will let you go, and then hopefully we will be able to have more discussions, and maybe even to organize a multilateral session where we can exchange ideas more broadly. And I think that what we do need in a situation like this with a lot of tension is dialogue, is exchange of ideas. And sometimes it's not a question of agreeing, but at least understanding where we stand. And once we understand where we stand, we can seek more constructive solution. And I think that that's what we're trying to find. But Ambassador, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.